Hi everyone, and welcome to this video where we look at a member of my classic computer collection, and today we're going to have a look at the Sinclair ZX Spectrum. Now this iconic UK British microcomputer was released into the market in 1982, and let me just give you a sense of the British computer market at that time. Now most people had heard about microcomputers, so they were aware of them. To lots of people, they were still quite mysterious, but their children were starting to use them at school. And home computing, as opposed to hobby computing, had been introduced by the cheap and cheerful Commodore VIC-20. So the Spectrum was introduced into a marketplace that was primed for a cheap, homegrown colour computer. So let's have a look at it. The ZX Spectrum was the third, and one could argue the most significant offering from Sinclair Research, the UK company owned and run by colourful inventor and entrepreneur Clive Sinclair. Their first computer, the ZX80, was released in 1980 as a kit. Its 1981 successor, the ZX81, was fully assembled and sold from many outlets. Both of these machines widely exceeded expectations. This was particularly true of the ZX81, which saw its way into many British homes. Indeed, it seeded a whole domestic computer consumer hardware/software industry in the UK. The first two ZXs were cheap. They were good for learning about computing, and some people did amazing things with them. However, they did lack the memory, graphics, colour and sound to really compete with the video game substitutes the market was starting to come up with. In essence, the ZX80 and the ZX81 were just stepping stones to a true Sinclair home computer, the ZX Spectrum. This iconic machine was announced to the market in April 1982. It could be purchased as either a 16K model or fully decked out with 48 kilobytes of RAM. Here's an advertisement I found on the web. It's been scanned from a British magazine, but I'm not sure as to what the magazine was or when it appeared. But I found this ad very interesting because it doesn't seem to pitch the machine at the home market, which is a little odd. There's no family surrounding the machine looking on, as you've found in many of the other advertisements for similar machines. This ad's more in the style of the higher-priced personal or even business computers, which was a bit of a stretch for the ZX Spectrum. But that didn't stop business software being sold for it, though, as you'll see later in this video. Demand for the machine was immediate and way beyond expectations, with a huge backlog of orders soon appearing, stretching back months. There were several likely reasons for the Spectrum's initial runaway success. First, for a colour machine, the computer was cheap, £125 for 16K and £175 for 48K. The 16K unit was cheaper than the miserly 4K VIC-20, which was priced at £165 in the July issue of Your Computer in 1982. And the ZX Spectrum was way cheaper than the BBC Model B Micro, priced at £435. Second, many British kids were starting to be exposed to computers at school, and there was some pressure on parents to have one at home. Third, lots of homes had taken the plunge with the earlier Sinclair models, and the ZX Spectrum was a natural upgrade path. Fourth was Clive Sinclair himself. Now this was a man who excelled at marketing with a good dollop of enthusiasm and a dash of patriotic appeal. The Sinclair brand was a solid one. Such was the power of the Sinclair brand and the excitement around the new machine that Margaret Thatcher, Prime Minister of Britain at the time, presented a ZX Spectrum to the Japanese Prime Minister during a visit in September 1982. As an example of British computing technology prowess. 1983 saw the ZX Spectrum challenged by a host of new entrants into the UK home computer market, and no machine was more of a challenge than the Commodore 64. It was serious competition, and really the C64 outperformed the ZX Spectrum technically. However, through a combination of good marketing, upgrades to the basic model and a wide number of Main Street resellers, competitive pricing, a host of software, the Spectrum continued to shine for a number of years. A host of young, soon-to-be IT workers churned out game titles from their bedrooms. The machines were supported by all computer periodicals of the time, and the Spectrum even had its own magazine in 1984. The Sinclair ZX Spectrum first appeared here in New Zealand around July 1983. Here's a modest ad from the same issue which featured the Specky on its cover, showing the machine below its more established predecessor, the ZX81. Despite the Sinclair brand not having this exposure or the dominance it did in the UK, nevertheless the ZX Spectrum did very well here, with careful pricing and good promotion making it competitive with the Commodore 64 as the home computer option. Let's have a close look at my own 48K Specky. Here it is. It's not what I'd call pristine. It's seen a few knocks, but it's presentable enough. One of the things that hits you when you look at the case is the clean, minimalist design. I like that. I'm a minimalist at heart myself. The case has clean lines and is essentially just a black slab, but with those grey-blue keys and that dash of vertical colour in the bottom corner. It's quite a small black slab, I might add, and this might have helped with market acceptance as well, given that these machines were sold to be used with a family TV, and having a small form factor means you could put it away and bring it out quite easily. You could, for example, have bundled it into a small box which you could store easily under a bed, say. It didn't hog space, and this would have been a plus in a family environment. The ZX Spectrum has the same mode of entering basic keywords as the ZX81. In other words, a combination of keys would give you a basic keyword rather than having to type the word out. To those not used to the system, it drives you insane. But if you'd grown up with it, and the Specky or the ZX81 was your first computer, so you were familiar with that technique, I'm sure it made typing in those programs so much easier. The keys aren't too bad to use, although some people refer to the tactile response as a dead flesh feel. Still, it was a cheap home computer, and this was all the price could get you at the time. The only ports and interfaces are around the back. There aren't many of them. On the left there is a power socket and an expansion slot. Many Sinclair and third-party accessories plugged in here. I'll show you a few of those later. To the right were two cassette in and out ports. Cassette tape was the primary storage medium for the computer, and this was the media programs were sold on. Notice there's no remote jack though, meaning any stop and starting of the cassette recorder had to be manual. Now you can see on the right there a TV socket, and that's to take a lead straight to the television aerial. But notice the grey lead coming out of it. Somebody's modified this particular Specky so that it has composite output, which is great, which means you can just plug it into the composite input in a television. Works just fine. Note there's no on-off switch. Like the ZX81, the unit was switched on simply by removing the plug in the power jack. I don't like this aspect of the Sinclair machines. To me, this is taking minimalism a bit too far. Surely one would have thought a small slider switch could have been put in the side there somewhere. A reset button would have been handy too. Here is a shot of the PSU next to the unit, just to give you a size comparison. All you needed were these two things, a cassette recorder, TV, and you're up and away. So here's the motherboard. This image is sourced from Wikipedia. It's a very economical design. Note the piezo speaker on the lower right. The machine was powered by a fast 3.5 MHz Z80A microprocessor. Hence the name is ZX Spectrum. And this was contrary to many other home computers of the time which tended to use the 6502 chip or derivatives of it. I have a soft spot for the Z80 machines as my first computer, the Dicksmith System 80, was Z80 powered. Now before we look at the machine up and running, I just want to show you a few accessories I've got for the ZX Spectrum. First of all is this device. This is the ZX Interface 1. The machine was plugged into this device via its expansion card, and the computer could then be screwed into it, so it was held securely in place, so it kind of sat on the platform. Now this interface provided an extra 8K of ROM and has an RS-232 serial port and a connector to Sinclair microdrives. I don't have any of the microdrives myself, but wouldn't say no to getting some if I saw them for sale and the price was right. The two small sockets are network ports which allowed up to 64 ZX Spectrums to be daisy-chained together. I have two other expansion devices. One's a 3-channel sound synthesizer, which I think is missing a button where that hole in the middle is, and the other unit gives a joystick port. Both of these expansion interfaces have a straight-through expander card of their own, so they can be daisy-chained together. Okay, so it's time to see the machine in action. This is the boot-up screen. So if we push into it, we see our flashing K, which means we're ready to do something. And what I thought I'd do is to load a fairly iconic game for the Spectrum, and this is the Hobbit. It's quite topical for me because, as you would know, the Hobbit was filmed in New Zealand, and it's the time this video is being made, it's being shown in theatres around the world. And I'm a great fan of Tolkien, so we'll slip the cassette in, put that down, and we'll just enter load Hobbit and get the tape up and running. So off we go. For those of you that don't know this game, I think it can be best described as a text-based adventure game with scenery. It does have graphics, but you don't really interact with them. It's largely text-based. So here it is loading in off the cassette, and it was quite common for Spectrum games to show a bit of scenery as they were being loaded in. Now I've shortened the load time via editing here. It usually takes about 5 to 7 minutes or so. So we'll start our game, and we end up in our Hobbit hole, ready to start. A typical adventure game, once scenery's been drawn, it's just a matter of putting in your verbs and nouns and instructions, and you can get underway. So it tells us where we are and what we've got with us, and if we ask Gandalf to open the door, he can do that, and we can be on our way. Navigating in the Hobbit is just like any other adventure game. You just type in directions, so we'll go east and we'll get a new landscape drawn. Now, an interesting bit of trivia about the Hobbit was that it was originally designed on a Dick Smith System 80. The whole adventure engine and the adventure itself was written on that machine, and then it was ported onto the ZX Spectrum, where it became one of the iconic games for that machine. Interestingly, a version never appeared for the System 80, which was a bit of a shame. But certainly a bit of a trivia that's interesting to me, because of course the Dick Smith System 80 was my very first machine. So here we are near the Trolls. I won't go any further in this game, but I just wanted to show it to you because it is one of the iconic games for the Spectrum, but also it resonates on a number of levels for me as well. I do want to show you a second game, something a little bit more racy than the Hobbit. And for this one we'll use a joystick, so I've got my interface plugged in there. So we'll load this game up. This game is called Death Chase, and it's a motorcycle game. So you ride a motorcycle, first-person view, and the idea is to ride through a forest, and of course you're chasing foes. Some of them on motorcycles, some of them in helicopters, some of them even in tanks. So here we go. So the first thing the screen asks us to do is to select the interface. That Kempston interface, my one's compatible with that, and that was a common interface for adding joysticks to the Spectrum. So we'll select that, and away we go. Now the first level doesn't give you too many trees, and it's usually reasonably easy to navigate around them, but you do get that feel for an exciting action game. It's quite fast moving, targets aren't that easily to hit. Got to be on your toes to avoid the trees. Get a bit of variation, as in this is a night patrol, so you still see the trees, but they're a little harder to see the trunks as they loom out of the darkness. So you can see I'm managing to find my targets at the moment. Using the joystick you can slow the motorbike down or speed it up. Of course your foes tend to go flat out, so if you're too slow you don't actually catch them. So we're on to
level 2 now, and you'll notice there's a lot more trees, so there's more obstacles to avoid. Some of the riders now appear in pairs. Whack, there we go, straight into a tree. So we'll see if we can get somebody this time. Sometimes it's a matter of deciding which rider you want to pursue when you're at these more advanced levels. Yeah, so it's a sort of game that can get the blood flowing. Certainly one of the more enjoyable Spectrum games that I've seen. I spent a few hours playing this game when I first got my Spectrum. Had quite an entertaining time. I did try to play this game using the keyboard, but boy, that was pretty hopeless. Certainly it is the type of game, like a lot of these games, that you really do need a joystick for if you want to make any sort of progress. They can be pretty challenging. So I'm managing to knock a few of them down, which is good. So we're back to daylight again. In Sector 2, even more trees this time, so they're starting to appear thick and fast, and really you do have to keep your wits about you when the thickets start to grow to this type of density. So I'll just see how far I can get. Might be able to get to the next level, but I'll just... oh no, there we go. Game over. So yeah, so that's me for this game. So yeah, good exciting fun. Now the Spectrum's known principally as a game machine, but a lot of other software came out for it that wasn't necessarily in that genre, such as this IQ test here. There's this small business accounts package. There's Collector's Pack, which is essentially a database for anyone that collected something. They could categorize their collection in here. Here was another one. If you had a particular club and you were sort of controlling a membership database, you could use this package. And finally, here's a logo package for the Spectrum. Logo being educational software for kids, graphical-based Turtle graphic software. Now I've got quite a bit of software for the Spectrum. You can see there some of the commercial titles I've got. It's not everything I've got, but I'm pretty well provided for this computer as far as software is concerned. The machine came with 2 manuals. Unfortunately, I've only got one. There was a manual on how to set up the machine and some basic information about it, and there was a manual on BASIC for the Spectrum, and this is the one on BASIC. It's a pretty good tutorial, so again, like the other Sinclair ZX81 manual, if you wanted to learn BASIC, this was a pretty good manual for doing that. It went through all of the major constructs in a pretty logical way with plenty of examples to help you learn how to use the machine and how to use the language. Very thick, quite comprehensive. Not too many diagrams in it, but yeah, pretty useful nevertheless. So I'm on the lookout for that other manual. I don't have that yet, and I'd like to have it just to complete the collection as far as these manuals are concerned. So that's the ZX80 Spectrum. Just a few other points about the ZX Spectrum before we leave it. One was that there were 7 different variations, and the model lasted for 6 years, so that's pretty good going. Second, it was a model that was often cloned, particularly in Eastern European countries, also clones in South America and Asia. And it's still a loved computer, and on the internet you can find user groups that still support this model and even write new software for it. So it's something that's very treasured in people's memories.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that close look at the Sinclair ZX Spectrum. It's a classic computer and certainly one I'm very pleased to have in my collection. So that's it for this one. So until next time, keep well, and we'll see you in the next video.